The alley was dark, the only light coming from a flickering street lamp that buzzed as the rain fell in sheets. Ethan Cross, a hardened soldier from Earth, had seen the worst the universe had to offer. Intergalactic wars, mercenary missions in hostile environments, and the kind of violence that would make a lesser man tremble. But nothing had prepared him for this. A soft, pained cry echoed from the alley's shadows. Ethan instinctively reached for the pulse gun at his side, but the sound of the child's voice stopped him. It wasn't the scream of an adult, full of anger or terror. It was the voice of something far more innocent. The child. Ethan stepped into the alley, his boots splashing in the puddles. His eyes scanned the darkness, and there, in the corner, curled up under a pile of discarded clothing, was an alien girl. She looked to be no older than 8 or 9, her skin a pale shade of blue with delicate markings that glowed faintly under the dim streetlights. Her wide, fearful eyes locked onto him, and in that moment, something inside Ethan stirred. "Hey there," he said softly, crouching down in front of her, trying to keep his voice gentle. "Are you all right?" The girl didn't respond, her small body shaking with cold and fear. She was covered in bruises, her once luminous skin marred by the evidence of a harsh life. Her eyes darted around nervously, as though expecting something or someone to appear from the darkness. Ethan slowly reached out, pulling his jacket off and wrapping it around her shoulders. "It's okay. You're safe now." Her trembling hands gripped the fabric of his jacket as though it were the only thing anchoring her to reality. Still, she didn't speak. Ethan's heart ached at the sight. He didn't know where she came from, but one thing was clear. She was in trouble. Before he could ask another question, the sound of approaching footsteps caught his attention. The girl's eyes widened, and her small body flinched. Ethan quickly rose to his feet, moving to shield her. In the distance, he could see the silhouettes of men. No, soldiers, moving swiftly toward him. They were dressed in dark combat gear, their helmets reflecting the faint light of the street lamp as they moved with military precision. They weren't local law enforcement. They were something else, something far worse. A voice from the shadows cut through the tension. "Stay where you are. We don't want to hurt you." Ethan's instincts kicked in. He reached for his weapon, but before he could even pull it from his belt, he felt a sharp pain in his side. One of the soldiers had lunged forward, a blade thrust deep into his abdomen. The pain was immediate, blinding, but Ethan couldn't afford to fall. Not now. Not when he had to protect this child. The soldier twisted the knife and Ethan gasped, but he gritted his teeth, focusing on the alien girl. She was still huddled in the corner, terrified. He couldn't let her fall into the hands of these people. Then came the second stab, this one to his shoulder. His legs buckled, but he forced himself to remain upright, his grip on the pulse gun tightening despite the agony. The third stab pierced his ribs. Ethan's vision blurred, the world spinning. The soldiers weren't stopping. They kept coming one after another, their blades slicing into his body with cold precision. He staggered, barely able to stay conscious, but he knew he had to fight back. He reached for his pulse gun, but before he could fire, the fourth stab came, a deep cut to his chest. The impact knocked the wind out of him. The world around him faded in and out, his strength fading with every stab. He felt like his body was slowly shutting down, like he was being torn apart from the inside out. But he couldn't. He couldn't let them take the girl. Another stab, this one to his leg. He collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, his body drenched in his own blood. He could hear the soldiers talking, their voices muffled by the ringing in his ears. But the last thing he heard, the last thing he saw, was the alien girl's tear-filled eyes as she was dragged away by one of the soldiers. When Ethan awoke, it was to the harsh sting of antiseptic and the buzz of unfamiliar technology. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy, as if someone had strapped him to the bed. His head was throbbing and his limbs ached with a pain he couldn't quite explain. "Ah, you're awake." A calm voice broke through the haze, and Ethan slowly opened his eyes. Standing above him was a tall figure, draped in dark robes and a helmet that obscured most of their face. The figure held a glowing instrument in their hand, and their eyes, their unnervingly bright alien eyes, watched him intently. "You're lucky to be alive," the figure continued. I wasn't sure if you would make it. Ethan tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in his abdomen stopped him. His hand instinctively went to the bandages wrapped tightly around his torso. Where am I? He croaked, his voice rough from the blood he had swallowed. You are in a medical facility, the figure said. You were brought here after your altercation with the soldiers. Soldiers? Ethan's mind raced, trying to piece together the events that had led him here. He remembered the alley, the child, and the brutal attack. Where's the girl? He asked, his voice rising in desperation. Where is she? The figure's face softened, and they stepped closer to the bed. She's safe. For now? Ethan's heart skipped a beat, but his relief was short-lived. For now? Who the hell are you people? We are the Varelian, the figure said, lowering their helmet to reveal a young alien with pale green skin and delicate features. Their eyes were wide and filled with an eerie intensity. And we've been watching you. Hours later, Ethan was sitting in a sterile room, his wounds carefully tended to, but his mind racing. He still couldn't believe what had happened. He had been stabbed 8 times, left to die in an alley only to wake up in the hands of these mysterious beings. The door slid open, and the same Varelian alien entered, this time followed by a small group of soldiers. But these soldiers were different, sleeker, more refined, their uniforms adorned with the insignia of high-ranking officers. Ethan Cross, one of the soldiers said, stepping forward, his voice low and commanding. We have questions for you. Ethan narrowed his eyes, still groggy from his injuries, but trying to keep his mind sharp. I don't answer to anyone. The soldier ignored his defiance and glanced over at the Varelian who had been caring for him. Is he fit for questioning? He is alive, but his injuries are severe, the Varelian answered, eyeing Ethan closely. We cannot push him too hard. Then we'll keep it brief, the soldier replied. He turned back to Ethan, his gaze unwavering. You saved one of ours, and for that you were marked. Now you are in a position you do not understand. The child you protected, she is of significant value to us. Who is she? Ethan demanded, leaning forward despite the pain in his chest. Why is she so important? The soldier looked at the Varelian alien, who gave a slight nod before speaking. She is Princess Elara, heir to the Varelian throne. Her abduction was orchestrated by a rival faction seeking to destabilize our empire. You, human, have unknowingly become part of something far greater than you can comprehend. Ethan's mind spun. A princess? He had saved a princess? He had been stabbed, nearly killed for a damn princess? And now? Ethan asked, his voice hard. What do you want from me? The soldier's eyes gleamed. You are not in a position to ask questions. You will remain with us as our guest. The life you saved, Princess Elara, has given us a reason to extend our protection to you. But understand this, we do not operate on kindness alone. We owe you nothing. You owe me more than that. Ethan shot back, his pulse quickening. I almost died for that girl. The Varelian stepped forward again, his gaze calm but unwavering. And for that you will be rewarded. But for now you will cooperate. We will ensure your safety, for as long as you remain useful to us. Weeks passed in a blur of pain and uncertainty. Ethan healed under the watchful eye of the Varelian, and the more he learned about the situation, the more he realized that he had become entangled in a political war beyond his control. Princess Elara, the child he had saved, was the key to a galaxy-altering struggle for power between factions on the Varelian throne. But even as he healed, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He wasn't sure if it was the Varelian soldiers, the political intrigue, or something else entirely. But he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let them use him like a pawn. And so, as the days passed, he began to formulate a plan. A plan not just for his escape, but for Elara's freedom too. Because if he had learned anything from this entire ordeal, it was that some people would fight for what they believed in, no matter the cost.